President Zelensky, thank you for talking to Bloomberg. Now, everything to do with Ukraine has been waiting for January the 20th and Donald Trump's inauguration. He promised that he would have a peace deal in 24 hours. I think he's missed that. But his envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, says that he thinks you should be able to get a deal in 100 days. Do you think that's possible?
Thank you for the invitation, first and foremost, and good afternoon. You know, honestly, for me, the quality is important and not the terms, not the timeline. Of course, the timeline is also of a priority because upon the timeline depend the lives of the people, because every day we suffer losses. But first and foremost, the peace must be strong and it must be just. And, you know, it's not for the general rhetoric remarks, but it's for the Putin not to be able to come back, and he wants to come back. He will not rest until he's put to his place or until he destroys Ukraine. So for me, it is important that this is done. It's not important that 24 hours. And I am sure that all Ukrainians would agree with me. It is important that we achieve stable secure peace for Ukraine.
Trump said earlier this week that Zelensky told me he wants a deal. Zelensky wants to make a deal. Is that the way you feel?
We've spoken with Trump, and I'm grateful that we've had an opportunity to speak with President Trump. We've had a couple of conversations. They were in a good mood, but we could not go too deep into details. And he was asking me regarding how I feel, and I told him about the security guarantees, that this is a priority. I was speaking frankly about NATO, I believe that these are the cheapest security guarantees for everybody, by the way, for Europe, for the US, for Ukraine, although we've paid a big price for Russians as well. That is the cheapest way, I believe, because this will work. But undoubtedly, we must have other opportunities that can be additional security guarantees for Ukraine until we are in the alliance, in any security alliance. I told him that Ukraine, as anybody else wants to end the war, because we did not want to start it in the first place. We are ready to go for the end of the war, but we must be in strong position. This is what I told President Trump. But I told him frankly, and maybe he meant it. You will see. I told him, Mr. President, you will see when everybody around will understand that everybody wants to end the war. You will see that Putin will not be ending it. He will not want to end it, and without strength, we will not manage. You will see. That's why I always emphasize peace through strength, because this regards only Putin. He is sick with this idea to destroy us and to occupy us, and this is very important for him.
Why do you think Putin does not want to end the war? He has cost maybe 600,000, 700,000 people have died.
He does not. He does not think of people. For him, these people are nothing. He has the aim to not allow Ukraine to live in free and prosper.
Really, to destroy our independence. This is so important. This is his goal. I think, the goal of his life.
Trump has said that he's arranging a call with Putin. From what you've just said, it sounds like you would be nervous about that. Or are you confident that President Trump will make your case?
I would put it the following way. I believe that for all of us who truly want to end the war, who wants to end it fast, if it is possible, for all of us, it's desirable to have a plan until we have communication with Putin. I believe that this is in the interest of the United States, of the European Union, of Europe as a whole. It is in the interest of Ukraine and our people. The allies must coordinate the steps, the vision, to understand the details in depth, and Putin is not an ally in this. And even after the end of the war, he will not become an ally. He will be an adversary. But he will have to finish if he is weak. Therefore, I believe that our communication with President Trump and from what I know, the teams are working on that. I think our communication must be a priority, and then communication with Putin.
Just on that, you have previously said you would not talk to Putin yourself. Would you change that if there was a deal on the table?
We'll see. If Ukraine has a chance to end the war with a just peace for Ukrainians, of course, I'm the president of Ukraine. I will do everything to make that come sooner. And if there is a just agreement, if President Trump, and I believe in that, if he manages to guarantee strong and irreversible security for Ukraine, then we will move on the diplomatic track. I understand that without Russia, the way to end the war with diplomacy is not possible, simply not possible.
Do you have a date to meet President Trump or to meet Mr. Kellogg? Nothing yet.
No. There was one of the dates was when Mr. Kellogg was about to come to Ukraine. And I know that the American team is planning to come to Ukraine. I think that is the right way. Our team was in Washington, and now the American team is planning to come to talk on some details, more in depth, and I believe to prepare our vision for the President Trump before our meeting.
I remember seeing a video of you when they had the talks with Putin before, when I think it was Merkel and Macron were there, and they to the outside eye, they seemed to sideline you a bit at that particular set of talks. Do you worry that America will try and do a deal behind your back, maybe?
I very much believe that the US won't do that. Although I'm not sure that earlier this did not happen. And I'm here not speaking about America, I'm here speaking also about some European partners. I don't know, and I'll be frank with you. What I know, and I'm always frank in sharing that. The fact that US and Europe communicated with Russians on the level of intelligence before the invasion and during the full-scale invasion, all that was in place. And after 2014, you remember that part of the Ukrainian territory was occupied, and I know that there was communication. I wasn't the president back then, and I know that there was the communication between the United States of America and Ukraine and with Russia. And I know that they all communicated, but they communicated in such a way that they gave up parts of our territory without fight. That was the communication. So we do not want this to happen behind the backs of Ukraine. For me, it is very important, and I will do everything so that all the communication is public.
Just one last question on the Americans. We now have the figure of Elon Musk in the equation. He has been very supportive of Ukraine in terms of Starlink and what he has done to help you there. But he's also said that Ukraine cannot win the war and you should give up territory. Is he helpful in this or not?
Regarding the Starlink, he really helped. And here I can thank his team, him personally, that we've received Starlink, and that is a fact. And regrettably, it seems to me that the Starlink later, at first it was our advantage, and I'm speaking not only about the battlefield, I'm speaking about the hospitals, the kindergartens, after Russian strikes on our infrastructure, and then the Starlink were helping us, but regrettably this advantage decreased when the Russians obtained certain devices. Yes, regrettably this happened. In any case, I can be only grateful for this. As regards the territories, I've already covered that. In the world, there is no person or a leader that can force Ukraine to legally recognize, to violate our right or for our land, for our life, to violate the constitution and to legally recognize parts of our territories as occupied as Russian. And that is impossible. This will never happen. And even more so, I'll be frank with you, I'm sure that Putin understands that as well.
whenever you have peace deals, they always involve a degree of flexibility. You have previously said that peace talks can only begin if Russia goes back to where it was in February 2022, before the invasion. Do you still stick by that, or are you prepared to negotiate along the current contact line?
You know, the negotiations can be just and unjust. It can be in various ways. The question is, with whom is Ukraine at that stage? If Ukraine is not alone, Ukraine will do everything that the negotiation is just. And just means that there are guarantees that the enemy will come back at least to the line of the full-scale invasion. That would be just the opportunity to start the dialogue. But in life it happens that things can go different ways. So many here depends on how we look at justice, the same way or differently. This depends on the United States. This depends on the new administration. This depends on the European Union, on their opinion, on their independence, on the stance of the allies of America and of Europe, on the global South. It depends also in a certain way. So the question is whether Ukraine will be as it was sometime before in the Normandy format. There was Ukraine and there was everybody else, or Ukraine will be with allies. And at this stage, Russia will be alone. That is what just negotiation is.
Just to be clear on that, people are saying the first step towards any negotiation is to freeze the conflict on the current contact line, where the two armies are at the moment. Would that be acceptable as a first step? You seem to say it's not the best option, but it would be okay, at least as a starting point.
This is not the best offer. That is, to put it softly, not the best offer for Ukraine. That is a weak position at the entrance for the future negotiations for Ukraine. That is truly a winning position for Russia, because they do not lose anything. They only obtain, and they get the time to renew, to replenish the forces, because I believe that they are willing to come back again. And here there will be only one question: what are the security guarantees? And honestly, it's very much wanted to have this understanding before the start of the negotiations, because there are guarantees that do not depend on Russia. I'll be frank with you. Nobody will believe Russia in Ukraine, and therefore security guarantees from Russia, they do not interest me personally, because it does not matter what they promise, because they do not stick to their word. There were guarantees for many times. There was the Budapest Memorandum and the Minsk agreements, the Normandy format, our meeting, etc. The question of ceasefires was already on the agenda. That's not new for us. The question is, what are the security guarantees that Putin does not start the war? And these security guarantees we need from President Trump and from Europe. But Europe will look at the President Trump.
Can we look at those security guarantees? Because it sounds to me as with the security guarantees, you might be prepared to start negotiating without Russian troops withdrawing. You know, what Russia keeps on saying is it doesn't want you to join NATO. That would be a condition on the other side. Is that a red line for you? You don't want that to be included in the peace treaty?
Honestly, first and foremost, these are the relations of NATO countries and Ukraine. That is what I believe, and I don't think that this is, very frank. When we say that Russia wants Ukraine to be in NATO or not to be in NATO, let's be frank. Let us solve the problems as they come. For now, first and foremost, there was no 100% support from the US, Germany, Hungary, Slovakia regarding our accession to NATO. And before saying that Russia wants this or that, this does not interest me a lot. Allies interest me. Why they don't want? That means that they worry so much what Russia thinks. Otherwise, they don't know other reasons. Not to disturb Russia. That is the reason for non-entering NATO for Ukraine. But excuse me. I'll tell you. At a certain stage, everybody will recognize that NATO is the cheapest security guarantees. The cheapest. Imagine that with Russia, we're against Russia. We will be speaking about a 1 million army. Let's speak philosophically. If we are not in NATO, and you have next to you an absolutely sick man with the desire to occupy you, and he has the army 1 million plus, 1.5 million, yes? You won't be able to withstand his strikes if you do not have the army in nearly 1 million size. Then I have the question, absolutely frank. Where will we get the resources? Either all our economy must work for the army that is 1 million people in Ukraine, or somebody will have to jointly finance the army. That's why I'm saying NATO is cheaper, because somebody will have to finance such army. We won't be able to do that on our own. And with the decreased army by many times, and that is what Putin wants as well. And some leaders, if we decrease the army size by 5 times, or it doesn't matter how many times, his capability to occupy us will be increasing. So again, for him, these are dividends. That's why I'm saying, what is security guarantees? If it is just the piece of paper, we won't go for the Budapest Memorandum that was signed by the way, by the US, China, France, Russia, other nuclear states, and you know, and I said that frankly, they're just as in NATO, by the way. If somebody threatens your sovereignty, the party can call the consultations before the fifth article is used. I will tell you that in Budapest Memorandum as well, there is a prospect for a scene for the calling of the consultations. And more than that, Ukraine many times called for the consultations in accordance with the Budapest Memorandum after the Crimea was occupied. And that was during Obama times. President Obama, then there was President Trump, then there was Biden, now again Trump, President Trump, and all the time we have the war. All started with the occupation. We were calling the consultations, for the consultations. What do you think? Somebody came? No.
In this world of pieces of paper, where it'd be very hard to disagree with what you said, as Ukraine has been offered bits of paper before. One thing on President Trump, the one thing he hates being seen as a loser. And from that perspective, do you think that if he does a deal with Putin and it's seen to be a victory for Putin, that is in some ways your strongest card?
President Trump зараз на коні.
President Trump is now on top, as they say, and he had a strong victory on the elections, and now he has serious steps that are directed at the internal politics. The issue of ending the war in Ukraine must be, I believe, the victory for Trump and not for Putin. Putin is nobody for him. And America is way stronger, and Europe is way stronger. China is way stronger than Russia. They are all players. And during our war, everybody saw that Russia is incapable of occupying Ukraine, and that speaks of the power of Russia. The issue is that they're big, they have a lot of weaponry, and they do not spare people. And the issue is that we are defending Europe. We are defending the NATO countries precisely, and the Putin will go there. Therefore, Trump must come out of this as a winner. He's capable of doing so. He's capable, but he will not be winner if Putin is a winner. That's just impossible. And I believe that The most dangerous is, and by the way, not only for Trump, but for me and for all Ukrainians, if he can have this agreement in a way that Putin will have the opportunity to come back. Technical opportunity, you know, not in words. He will promise many things to President Trump, even for the sake of the meeting with him. He will promise many things, even sign. But imagine that such victory, such summit that Trump has reached, and then Putin, definitely to humiliate everything around him, he will come back with the aggression. And that will be a huge fall for everybody. As I told you, that is the question not only about President Trump. It's the question for Ukraine, to me, for each of in Ukraine, in the EU. We will all lose because simply to trust Putin's words, because simply trust his signatures, it's no way, no way.
You've called on the Europeans. You said yesterday that you want 200,000 peacekeepers. That would be something solid. It's not a promise. What has been the response to that?
I did not tell, by the way, that we need 200,000. The journalist asked me. Yes. And I'll tell with what is connected. The journalist said 200,000. I said it can be more. It can be less. It depends on what. If let's recall. Let's move one step back and recall what army has to be if we are not in NATO, or there is no other security alliance for Ukraine. If we speak about 1 million army that is capable of stopping Putin's forces, and if we say that there is no opportunity to sustain such army, and Europe and America will say let's decrease, then I'm saying to you that if we decrease it to 200, 300, 500,000, it will mean that instead of this we'll need other troops in the quantity by which we have decreased the army. That's what I said. That's what I said was talking about. And here we are ready that there will be a military contingent. It can definitely assist us if there is a goodwill of the other countries. But once again, this cannot be viewed as a solely European initiative without the United States of America. That is...
So it has to be kind of, if not NATO, it has to be something very similar to NATO. It has to be Europe and America.
I didn't have translation, but I understood you well. So, I mean, as I said, that's really just to finish with contingents. So if it's great if we will have troops, but we have to understand that the troops will not be in the center of the capital.
Yes.
They will not have relaxed time. Yes, it's very important because I heard that some allies said that yes, but it's okay, we can be in the center of some city, and then no, we don't need such contingents.
You want them at the front line?
Yes, with our people, of course. Yes, because this means security, and that's it. So, but it can't be without the United States. I will explain you why. Even if some European friends think that it can be, no, it will not be. First of all, nobody will risk without the United States. The second, that's what can divide NATO, divide EU and USA. That is a goal and dream of Putin, to divide this unity. And that can be, if only Europeans will be, first of all, they don't have some hundreds of thousands. Be honest. No, they don't have. They don't have such troops. You know that our army is more than 800,000.
It's very big by the standards.
Second, France.
Yes.
200, a little bit more, 200. And all our partners are there less and less and less. So where they will get some hundreds of thousands. It means that the idea is about to have 10, 20, 30, it's not enough.
But do you think Trump will allow, do you think Trump will let American troops be in Ukraine after the peace? That is a big thing for him. He is always about taking things back to America.
Yes, Yes, it's true. It's true. For example, it's interesting moment about it once with him, not about contingents in Ukraine, but I spoke about our people. I said, we have big army. Look, if we are the part of NATO,
Yeah.
and you know, Europeans always counted on a big number, like now something more than 80,000 of Americans here, yes, in Europe, NATO soldiers. So something like that. I said, is that I'm thinking maybe you know, he always wants his soldiers be in the United States, yes, but I said that after the war we will have 100,000 people, and if we are in NATO, they can stay on the borders of other countries if we are in NATO. But if we are not in NATO, we are not. Yes.
You mentioned China. How important is China in these negotiations? I mean, China is the backer of Russia. They seem to have had an impact on things like Putin not using nuclear weapons, those sort of things. Can China push Putin, and do you have any contact with the Chinese?
I had some contacts with Xi Jinping. We had phone call during the war. Not too much, not enough, I think. Yes, he can push Putin to peace, I'm sure. I think that only President Trump is the strongest, and Xi Jinping. I think that there is no other allies who can really do it. Yes, because his economy, Putin's economy, after sanctions, after everything, depends very much of China and Chinese decisions of the leader of China. And of course, I think that, who knows, maybe, I don't know, maybe more smart to make a decision and to have dialogue with President Trump with Xi Jinping about how to together push Putin.
So you would appeal to Donald Trump and Xi Jinping to push Putin towards peace?
What I did?
No, you would like Putin, you would like Donald Trump and Xi Jinping of China to work together to push.
I think
push
yes.
Putin.
Yes.
Can I ask you a bit about the actual war?
But not without us.
Not without you.
It's important. Yeah, please.
Can I ask you about the actual war? As you know, the background to this is Russia has been gaining territory. Gained above 4,000 square kilometers last year. What can you do militarily to stop that or reverse it? What do you need from your allies, regardless of peace?
It doesn't depend on decisions. We need financing of our internal production of drones, first of all. And we are good in it, but now we want to accelerate and increase the production. We need a lot between us. I don't want to go further to number and equipment, because we have some brigades, as I said previously, we have some brigades and they are really empty. So they don't have, this, troops are, when you have people and equipment, not just people, yes, or not just equipment, and that's why. So we need to equip some brigades. This is what's important for today. Yes.
What about the idea that you would be allowed to use Western weapons, especially missiles, deeper into Russia? You have that limit of 200.
It's crucial. No, it's crucial. It was from the very beginning. Now our partners, especially in Europe, now they see that, yes, how we asked during a long period of time, give us long-distance weapon. Because when you began to destroy storages, just military storages, which are not very far from the border, but, 100 kilometers, something like this. And when we began to destroy the storages, that, for example, on the east, when you're asking what you need, we need to decrease their troops, to decrease their possibility to fight against us. We need to have comparable number of troops, yes, we and an enemy, and of course comparable number of, for example, artillery rounds. After our attacks, deep strikes, to their some storages or shelters with, you know, with this weapon and some additional troops, they decrease to 1 to 4, and then 1 to 2, using artillery rounds. And of course, we need more such missiles to destroy their military airfields, where they have jets, where they use guided aerial bombs, and you know that they use 6,000 per month on civilian infrastructure. 6,000. And when somebody say that, but you have air defense, no, we can't use even air defense against these aerial bombs, because we have dozens of missiles per month, dozens, and we, of course, we are focusing, use it against ballistic and etc. And they have thousands guided aerial bombs. How to destroy it? You have to destroy their jets, and don't give them possibility to have comfortable airfields not far from our border, from contact line, front line.
You have seen people like North Korea has sent troops, Iran, China. These people have been helping. What was your, looking at what happened with the North Korean troops? What do you think? Did that help Russia, or was it's just manpower?
Я вважаю, що всі побачили слабкість Росії.
I believe that everybody saw the weakness of Russia. Here there is weakness, that he lacked the military personnel. But for him, that is a point number 2. He is dragging the other country into war. He has dragged it. Point number 3, out of 12,000 troops that are on the Kursk axis, 4,000 are dead or wounded. I have said already that maybe as of today the number is bigger, but it is understandable that as of now they lost around 1/3. As regards the treaty with Iran, it seems to me that, frankly, that Iran has started to be afraid of the reaction of the modern America and from President Trump, because if you analyze the treaty that was before the inauguration signed between Putin and Iran, you will see that this is like a copy, well, not a copy, but pretty much the same that was in 2001. So that is a weak agreement, that is way weaker than the North Korean agreement with Russia. And I believe that because of the North Korean agreement with Russia, they managed to drag the North Korean troops. With Iran, it's all weaker. I think that Iran understands what's going on and thinks that there can be a harsh response from the world, and first and foremost from the United States of America. But Iran has shared with them licenses for the production of Iranian drones, for the long-range drones that they use against us. We understand that this can be 500-600 monthly per year, such long-range drones.
Nobody doubts.
Shahed drones, because they have other drones as well.
Nobody doubts how bravely Ukraine has fought. You have seen off one of the world's biggest armies. But there is one issue which your allies always press you on, is that you only mobilize people above the age of 25, which makes you a very strange thing. No army in history has not used people less than 25. That has always been the backbone of armies, young men being sent to war. Would you, in exchange for more weapons, would you mobilize that younger bit of Ukraine?
First and foremost, it's our legislation like that, and it is like this. And the mobilization was from 27, and we have decreased the age to 25 because everybody understood that the warriors are old, adult. I do not want to look what was in history, but probably nobody too much thought about the people, about the quantities, about the quantity of the losses. But I want to say that for us, it is our youth, it is our people, and And I said it, if there are people 25 years plus and they do not have weapons, why would we want to mobilize younger people? So that we have more people without arms? I think that there must be logic in this, and justice, where you can get by without a person and can build up the defenses with drones. Let's do it. We must do it. Protect the lives of people. Where we need the youth, let's speak. But let's speak that they are with equipment, they are prepared, they have the weaponry. In this war, the West cannot dictate the terms to Ukraine. In this war, Ukraine does not dictate terms to the West. We can be only allies. And if you don't want to give long-range weaponry, if you don't want to give all that Ukraine has asked for, and you say, look, at first let Ukraine mobilize people, then it is not very just. You can put a condition. Our condition is like this. We give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is a dialogue.
Surely that is my point. Surely there is a deal to be done where your allies give you more weapons and you mobilize more of your young people.
There is always an agreement. And it cannot be in a war that we pay the highest price, the lives of our people, and the allies say that the instructors cannot come to you in the large numbers. We cannot train you in Ukraine. Why? Because it's dangerous. And by the way, you need to decrease the mobilization age. That is not a just dialogue. I believe it is not a just dialogue. We must be just and say frankly to each other what we lack, what Ukraine lacks to win Putin, and to write out these points. And each of the party must fulfill its obligations.
You have been fighting a war, you have been involved in that every day, but you are also the democratic leader of a country. You've had to suspend national elections, I understand that. You're meant to have local elections this year. Do you think they will go ahead?
In accordance with our legislation, when the war ends, there will be all the elections needed.
But local elections this year?
It's the same. They must be in autumn. Let's do everything so that local elections happen in accordance with the legislation. And in accordance with the legislation, the war must end. And then elections. Let's do all in our capacity for the war to end. And then there will be elections and all other.
You've been very kind with your time, and we all wish you well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.